Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney, and today I have a fun video. It is Native American Heritage Month in November, and I love to read books by Native authors, and I'm really excited. I have a stack, 3 of which are on my actual TBR. 2 I'm pretty confident I can get to. 1 I'm really in the mood for. 1 is super short and I'm really interested in. The other 2 are just hopefuls. We'll have to see how it goes. I'm starting this. It is Friday, November 7th. And I actually already started 1 book yesterday because I needed an audiobook to listen to. And so I started 1 book yesterday, but this first week I was focusing on rollovers, and this 1 book happens to be a rollover, so it still fit. And I have like 6 and some change hours left to listen. And so, yeah, we'll be continuing on with that. And then we'll just have to see how the rest of the week goes. So I'm starting this. I technically started it yesterday, but I'm going to go through this weekend, from this weekend through the next weekend. And then this video is hopefully going to come out on the 17th. But you know how I am. Sometimes I just switch things around and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about the books and what they're about. And then as I get to each one, I'll give my thoughts as I go, how I like them and whatnot. So the one I have already started is Fevered Star by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is book 2 in the Between Earth and Sky trilogy. And like I said, I did need an audiobook, and I have an audiobook for this one. And the 3rd book, which is actually on my November TBR. This one was a rollover from October. This one's on my November TBR. And I have the audiobooks for both of these because there was a 2-for-1 sale, and these were on it. So I was like, perfect. And my husband, they have receipts and they put them in digitally just to make it a little easier and whatnot. And he's way behind. So he's like, do you mind doing that? So it's about a 50-minute drive to the bigger city. So I started listening to this on the drive, and then while I was sorting receipts, I listened to it. I have the receipts sorted, and I have some of the pictures taken. I need to take the rest of the pictures and upload it to the computer. So there's still a lot to go, and I have about 6 and some change hours left in this one, and then this is like a 15-hour audiobook. So I do like the audio. I will say they are, the different POVs are narrated by different people, so that's a lot of fun. It's not dramatized or anything like that, but you do have the different narrators. I do wish I was reading this physically because I do think I would retain more, but it's just more convenient to listen to these. And so that's just what I'm doing. I'm also working on a cross stitch for Christmas. So my plan is I'm probably going to finish this one up this weekend, cross stitching and listening to it. And then I'll save this one to start next week when I go back to finish taking pictures of the receipt. And then while I'm sorting them and such, I'll probably finish this up. And yeah, I love the series. The first book, I started reading it and I read that one physically, and I wasn't even halfway through and I knew I needed to get the next 2 in the series. It is a little bit more complex, so I did want to finish it up sooner rather than later. I think I read the first book in like August, I want to say. And yeah, I absolutely love it. So basically in this world, we're following a bunch of different peoples. And in the first one, there's the Convergence, which is an eclipse. It's called Black Sun. And so there's this convergence, and we're following Shiala and Serapio. Shiala is a teak, which is a water people, and there's a lot of superstitions around the teak. And Serapio he lives across the seas, but his mother was from this Crow people over in the city of Tova, which has 4 different factions, plus the Watchers, which is like a religious like institution basically. You have 4 Watchers and then like a bunch of like people underneath them. And the Watchers like back when slaughtered the Crow people, and so there's a lot of resentment there and such, and the Watchers aren't as favorable as they once were. And then there's also across the canyon like the outcasts, and those people, and one of the Watchers actually comes from that area, and they only cross the canyon basically to work as servants for the different clans and whatnot. So Serapio needs to get to to the city by the convergence. Um, and yeah, this book's following the aftermath of the convergence, and it's really really interesting, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in this one because I really don't know what's gonna where this one's gonna end right now. But I am really enjoying it. Like I said, I would probably enjoy it more if I was reading it physically. I would retain more, not necessarily enjoy it more, but I would retain more. But I think I have a pretty good grasp of what's going on. So my plan is to finish this one this weekend, start this one when I go back down to the bigger city. So in between those ones, I'm going to be reading this book, The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. This is my family book club pick. I was able to get it on my game TBR, and it also is my genre-thon pick, which is my readathon. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about this one. This one in particular, I'm really interested in. I have read 2 other books by this author. The Only Good Indians has really stuck with me, and I also read Mongrels, which was just weird. And I really don't know how I feel about the writing, but this one in particular seems like it's right up my alley, based on the premise. So I'll go ahead and read that now. And so it says, this chilling historical novel is set in the nascent days of the state of Montana, following a Blackfeet Indian named Goodstab as he haunts the fields of the Blackfeet Nation looking for justice. It begins when a diary written in 1912 by a Lutheran pastor is discovered within a wall in 2012. What is unveiled is a slow massacre, a nearly forgotten chain of events that goes back to 217 Blackfeet dead in the snow, told in the transcribed interviews with Goodstab, who shares the narrative of his peculiar and unnaturally long life over a series of confessional visits. This is an American Indian revenge story captured in the vivid voices of the time by one of the new masters of literary horror, Stephen Graham Jones. And yeah, this just seems like the premise is just so intriguing for me, and I'm really looking forward to getting to this. So that one, like I said, I'll finish Fever Start, jump into this one, and then when I go back down to the city, I'll get into Mirrored Heavens. So excited for that one. Like I said, those 3 are officially on my TBR. They're definitely going to be a focus. Then I have this one. It's called Coyote N, and it's Native American Folktales retold by Joe Hayes, illustrations by Lucy Jelinek. And I found this at a thrift store, and like the art is really cool. This is really short, obviously, only 75 pages, and a lot of it is art. Um, and so it says, let's see here. Joe Hayes has entertained audience throughout the Southwest telling folk tales from New Mexico's rich tri-cultural heritage, which I live in New Mexico, so it's also local stories for me, which is really exciting. And it says, now in its 6th printing, Coyote N has become a regional classic. These are Joe's favorite versions of the exploits of that most legendary of characters, the wily Coyote. Enjoy the delightful illustrations of Lucy Jelinek as you experience the sometimes calamitous adventures of Coyote and a host of his friends and adversaries alike. So I'm very, very excited about this. I found this at the thrift store, and I was like, that's going to be a perfect gift for somebody. So I actually also ordered another copy. I had to get it from Thrift Books because that's the only place I could find it. So I'm very excited about that one. Then, because I had to do a Thrift Books order, and I was like, I like to get the free shipping, so I might as well get, 2 more books to get the free shipping. I also ordered The Truth According to Ember by Danica Nava. Sorry, I was just making sure. There's supposed to be deliveries today. I already did Christmas shopping and everything. But so anyway, I wanted this since I heard about it. And it's The Truth According to Ember by Danica Nava. And I was like, I saw it, Thrift Books had it, and I was like, sweet, I'm really in the rom-com mood. I love watching rom-coms around Christmas time. This isn't a Christmas one, but it is a rom-com, and it fits for the week of reading Native authors. So I'm very excited about this one. I have heard mixed things, but I think I'm going to enjoy it. So it's a Chickasaw woman who can't catch a break serves up a little white lie that snowballs into much more in this witty and irresistible rom-com by debut author Danica Nava. Ember Lee Cardinal has not always been a liar. Well, not for anything that counted at least. But her job search is not going great, and when her resume is rejected for the 37th time, she takes matters into her own hands. She gets creative in listing her qualifications and answers the ethnicity question on applications with a lie, a half lie, technically. No one wanted Native American Ember, but white Ember just landed her dream accounting job on Park Avenue. Oklahoma City, that is. Accountant Ember thrives in corporate life, and her love life seems to be looking up as well. Danuola Colson, the IT guy and fellow native who caught her eye on the first day, seems to actually be interested in her too. Despite her unease over the no dating policy at work, they start to see each other secretly, which somehow makes it even hotter. But when they are caught in a compromising position on a work trip, a scheming colleague blackmails Ember, threatening to expose their relationship. As the manipulation continues to grow, so do Ember's lies. She must make the hard decision to either stay silent or finally tell the truth, which could cost her everything. So I wanted to read this for a long time. It fits with the theme, and I'm in the rom-com mood, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to get to this one as well. Then the other two are just hopefuls. The first one is Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange. I read There by this author and really, really enjoyed it. I did not love the ending because it was open-ended. I mean, that's not my favorite. But I didn't actually know what this was about. And when I was setting this up, I actually read the premise and I was like, wow, that actually sounds really good. Which I assumed it would be anyway because I enjoyed the first book I read by this author. But this one has to do with the Carlisle Indian School. So, it says, Wandering Stars is the eagerly awaited follow-up to the Pulitzer Prize finalist Tommy Orange's breakout bestseller, There. I don't need to read all that. Colorado, 1864. Starr, a young survivor of the Sand Creek Massacre, is brought to the Fort Marion prison castle, where he is forced to learn English and practice Christianity by Richard Henry Pratt, an evangelical prison guard who will go on to found the Carlisle's Indian Industrial School, an institution dedicated to the eradication of Native history, culture, and identity. A generation later, Starr's son Charles is sent to the school, where he's brutalized by the man who was once his father's jailer. Under Pratt's harsh treatment, Charles clings to moments he shares with a young fellow student, Opal Viola, as the two envision a future away from the institutional violence that follows their bloodlines. In a novel that is by turns shattering and wondrous, Tommy Orange has conjured the ancestors of the family readers first fell in love with in There. Warriors, drunks, outlaws, addicts, asking what it means to be the children and grandchildren of massacre. Wandering Stars is a novel about an epigenic and generational trauma that has the force and vision of a modern epic, an exceptionally powerful new book from one of the most exciting writers at work today, and soaring confirmation of Tommy Orange's monumental gifts. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. Hopefully, I will have enough time to get to it. And then this one I wanted to read last year and I didn't get to it, and that's The Painted Drum by Louise Erdrich. And it's not very long, it's less than 300 pages. So hopefully, fingers crossed. I'm more interested in reading Wandering Stars, so out of the two, I'll probably read that one before I pick this one up. But this one says, while appraising the estate of a New Hampshire family descended from a North Dakota Indian agent, Faye Travers is startled to discover a rare moose skin and cedar drum fashioned long ago by an Ojibwe artisan. And so begins an illuminating journey both backward and forward in time, following the strange passage of a powerful yet delicate instrument and revealing the extraordinary lives it has touched and defined. Compelling and unforgettable, Louise Erdrich's Painted Drum explores the often fraught relationship between mothers and daughters, the strength of family, and the intricate rhythms of grief with all the grace, wit, and startling beauty that characterizes this acclaimed author's finest work. So, hopefully, fingers crossed. But like I said, the three I'm for sure going to get to, hopefully the rom-com and that little folktale book. I'm pretty confident I can get to all those. So we'll just have to see. So I'm going to, like I said, probably listen to Fever Star today and maybe tomorrow while I cross stitch, and then I will be back with my thoughts on that book. before jumping into the Buffalo Hunter Hunter. All right, so it is now the morning of Sunday, the 9th of November, and I did finish Fevered Star. I really enjoyed this. I did give it 5 stars. I really think I would have enjoyed it more physically. Not necessarily enjoyed it more, but retained more if I had read it physically. But I, you know, was able to grasp enough and know what was going on and such, and I absolutely loved it. I think the narrators did a really good job. It's just a little bit more complex, and I did have, the physical copy, so I could reference, like, there is the map, in the front, and then there is also like a character list, which is very helpful. So I was able to reference those when I needed to because I do have the physical copy. But it just worked better for me to listen to it. Like I said, I just have some things. And so I'm going to be listening to the third book as well. And this one was definitely very much a bridge from what the events that took place in the first book to what's going to go down in the third book. But it still had enough, like, I was interested, I was intrigued. It kind of made me a little sad because the characters that were initially together are now separated, but they're meeting the other characters from the first book. So you're getting different interactions, which was really cool. And I kind of I really like the ending actually because I was, it's kind of a situation where the characters are on two different sides. And I like all the characters, so it's like, who do you root for in that situation? And so I liked what the author did with the ending, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes in the third and final book. Like, I'm very excited for that one. But like I said, I'm also listening to that on audiobook, so that will be why I'm helping my husband with his stuff. I'll be listening to that. I'm planning on putting the pictures I already took in the computer, so I'll listen to it while I'm doing that, and then I'll go down this week to the office to take the remaining pictures and such. So, but I'm very, very excited to get to that third book. So I did finish that one. I don't want to squish anything here. And then I did start last night The Truth According to Ember by Danica and Nava. I only got like 29 pages in, so not very far, but we got the setup, so she's met the guy, she got the job. And so, yeah, this one I'm going to be reading because I like having a paperback at night because hardbacks hurt my wrist, and so trying to read them in bed is a little bit hard for me, but I like reading paperbacks in bed, and it's just perfect. So this one I'm actually planning on kind of nursing throughout the week and just reading it at night, in bed, and I'll just read, however many pages until I get tired and want to go to sleep is kind of how I work that. So, so far it's okay. The author has used pop culture references, which I don't love in books, if you know me, especially like contemporary romance. I think contemporary romance authors rely on them too much, and I don't like it. I don't like it. Um, Pop culture references have a time and a place, and this isn't working for me so far. But other than that, like, the character's fine. Like, it's all about she lies, so it's all about that and her kind of justifying her lies. But so far the characters are fine. The writing's easy to read and get into, so we'll just have to see. Like I said, it's early days yet, and I'll be nursing this throughout the week. So my plan today is, I didn't end up cross stitching yesterday. I was planning on listening to the rest of Fever Star and cross stitching, but I wanted to play World of Warcraft with my husband. We haven't played in a while together, and he really likes to play. Like, I enjoy it. I'm starting to wane on it. But I do enjoy it, but I more play with him. Um, so I wanted to do that because we hadn't done it in a while. So we played for a bit, and then he has a raid he joined, so he had to get off to do that. And then I decided I wanted to get like my thumbnails and everything that I do all set up. So all I had to do was edit videos. I do need to edit either today or tomorrow for my October wrap up. So we'll see what I do. But my plan this morning, at least, is I am reading So my husband and I were reading the third book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook by Matt Dinniman. We read that right at bedtime. So we read 2 or 3 chapters at bedtime. So we're going to continue to do that this week, obviously. We're at the halfway point now. And then I'm also continuing Before the Devil Breaks You by Libra Bray. I want to read this first thing this morning. This one I'm also kind of reading in smaller chunks. I would like to just sit and kind of read it, but it's kind of a bit denser. And so I'm going to read this until I kind of get tired of it today. And then I might cross stitch, but I definitely want to start The Buffalo Hunter today by Stephen Graham Jones. And so, like I said, I'm planning on reading this till I get tired of it, then either cross stitching today and then jumping into this, or vice versa, reading this and then cross stitching. I might jump on the computer for a little bit. But either way, I am going to start this today. And like I said, I will continue The Truth According to Ember. And so I'll be reading these 2. And then once I finish this one, I'll jump into something else. And then Mirrored Heavens, like I said, I'll listen to when I need the audiobook. So I'll have the 3 books going for the next little while. And I will just be back with you guys once I do have an update on something. So I will see when that is. It might be a couple days. It might be tomorrow. I don't know. Just see how I go, because I'm not really sure what I'm in the mood to do today. So I am in the mood to read, but I'm also wanting to cross stitch, and I also want to get on the computer. So I don't know. But I'll be back in a moment to give you guys an update. Okay, so it is almost noon on Tuesday, November 11th, and I don't have much of an update, but I thought I'd jump on anyway. Yesterday I ended up on Monday, I worked on Monday's video, my wrap up, to get it edited and get it uploaded, and then what I could of my other videos that I have coming out this month. And then I just kind of wanted to relax a little bit. I didn't want to focus my brain. So my husband and I ended up playing a little bit of World of Warcraft when he got home. So I did end up reading at bedtime. I ended up staying up a little later to get read. Of course, we're still working on Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I'm still working on Before the Devil Breaks You. So I definitely wanted to make some progress in those. So my husband and I read 3 chapters of Carl, and then I think I read 3 chapters of Before the Devil Breaks You, but one of them was really long, and that is a dense read, so that took me a little longer than I was planning. But I did read more of The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. I'm now on page 70, so I read 35 pages yesterday and 35 pages on Sunday. And one of the things I heard, when people were talking about this, negative wise, was that they didn't like the narration style, and I completely understand that, especially in the beginning. So the premise is you have the descendant of this pastor who the journal was found during a construction thing in 2012, and it's this journal from 1912. And the pastor is relaying the accounts given to him of a Native American Blackfeet named Good Stab. So the narration style is a little bit weird, especially in the beginning with our main character. Well, not our main character, but the descendant of this pastor. I don't even think that was necessary. Like, maybe it will come more into play at the end, but at this point, that was completely unnecessary. It was just kind of confusing. And I wish it had been, this pastor and then the Native American coming to him, Good Stab coming to him, and then the journal, entries of him writing what Good Stab was telling him, which is where it's at now. So the narration is definitely a little bit weird. And it is also a little confusing because, like, it's all in English, obviously, like they're not using actual Native American words, but they're using the Native American names for things. So like the oxen are long ears, the elk are big ears, and the elk are long legs, things like that. And like the elk, he tells you, elk, that's the elk. The oxen, he doesn't tell you, and you just kind of get it from clues. Like, he doesn't mean horses because he talks about the horses. And they're slow and plodding, and so okay, that's the oxen. But some of the other animals, like references, and you don't get names, there's no glossary. And so I kind of wish like that, because I'm spending my time like, okay, what animal is he talking about, and things like that. And so I do kind of wish there was a little bit of a glossary, but it's kind of one of those things, and I felt that way with the other two books I read by this author. You just kind of have to trust the process. So even if you're confused, just trust the process. And I am getting to where I'm, understanding more, and I'm figuring out the narration style and everything like that. And the last chapter I read last night, I particularly enjoyed. So I really, really enjoyed that one. And it was more, like it was a whole solid chunk of good stab, and this one story like at the beginning, kind of situation. So yeah, so far struggling a little bit, but really enjoying it. So there's that one. And then I am also slowly making progress on The Truth According to Ember. I'm about 80 pages into this one. This one, still not much has happened. Like, she's in place at the workplace now. Her and I was pronouncing it wrong. Like, I was like slowly saying it as Danica, is how they let you know it's pronounced in the book. So, but there, it's very much like there's that attraction, but nothing has happened. Like, they haven't crossed any lines or anything yet. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's a rom-com so far, and the pop culture references aren't as prevalent as I was worried they would be from the beginning. So that's nice, and just a nice way to end the night before I go to sleep, honestly. So I'll continue to nurse this one. I did chores this morning, and I'm gonna get on the computer again today and do the upload the receipts I had. I was waiting for my husband to fix the work computer, but he hasn't done that. And then he was going to do it last night, and then we decided to play World of Warcraft. So I was waiting for that, and then I was like, can I just upload it on my own computer and then put it on like a zip drive, and then you can put it on the work computer? He's like, yeah, that's fine. And so that'll be more comfortable for me anyway. So I'm planning on doing that today. And then tomorrow will be my big reading day. So I don't know how much more of this I'll get read tonight, or this. Like I said, I'm just going to nurse this one. But this is my main priority. I wanted to listen to Mirrored Heavens while I did like the receipts and such. But I think, I have 4 books going on right now, and I don't want to add a 5th one. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to watch some YouTube, get caught up on that, and do the receipts and such. And then hopefully I can finish this one up tomorrow. So Thursday, when I go down to the actual office, then I'll start Mirrored Heavens, is kind of my plan. So I am going to go get into doing the receipts, eating some lunch. And then I didn't cross stitch yesterday, so I might cross stitch a little bit this afternoon before jumping into the books. So I don't know if I'll get on and update you guys tomorrow. The next update might not be till Friday, because Thursday, like I said, I'm planning on going down to the bigger city to the office. So if I have any updates for tomorrow, I'll definitely jump on and let you know. But I just kind of wanted to give you my initial thoughts, especially on the Buffalo Hunter. And so, yeah, I'll be back when I have something to talk about, and let you know what's going on. Okay, so it is now Friday the 14th, the morning of Friday the 14th. I did finish The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. I actually finished this yesterday, so I did go down to the bigger city to do the receipts yesterday. And I was struggling with this one. So at 90 pages, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try the audiobook. And so I switched over to the audiobook, and that helped a lot. I'm really glad I switched over. I love the narrator for Good Stab. Like, I could just listen to that voice all day long. The one for the pastor was pretty good. I mentioned in the beginning you have his descendants POV in 2012. And so you get that narration as well. And I was like, I don't really understand the point. It does make more sense at the end. Not only because she explains like bloodlines and such a little bit further, but also like stuff happens with her at the end. So it did make more sense to have that POV at the end of it, because in the beginning I was like, what's the point of this? Like, no, I still didn't really like that the narrator from the book was fine. I didn't like that POV. I didn't like Etsy. But yeah, even so, even listening to it, it was still just kind of trust the process. If you didn't understand something, just kind of go with it. The long ears are not oxen; they are actually mules, which makes more sense. Because I didn't think oxen had long ears particularly, but I was like, I don't. But the way that it's describing it, plodding, da, 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 I was thinking oxen. It's mules. But yeah, and I was talking with my sister. My mom's struggling with it a bit, and she listens audio because she can't read physically. So she struggled. My sister struggled a bit. So it wasn't just me. We all struggled, and like Steph and I, my sister, were like, a glossary or him saying, like, okay, the long ears are mules, and this is elk, and this is deer. Like if he had done that, that would have helped, and then having a glossary as well would have really helped. And like my sister, um Napikwan, which is for the white men, she was like, I was so confused, I didn't know what that was for a long time, and I was like, I figured that one out. But yeah, it was confusing, so a glossary would have been really, really nice. But yeah, it's very, very heavy. I mean, you're dealing with the colonization and just the atrocities, like these white men, coming in and hunting the buffalo. And it really made me angry because it's not like they're just hunting, which I knew this happened, but like reading it and having it right there, they didn't just kill a bunch of buffalo and then just take the robes and leave the meat. They poisoned the meat so it would kill like any of the wolves, or the natives couldn't eat the meat and such because it was poisoned. And that just makes it like takes it to a whole new disgusting level. It's already disgusting. And then they do that. And so yeah, and I really liked like that historical social commentary, and such. I really enjoyed that, and it was so heavy. Like at times, like you're just like so angry and your heart hurt, and then you have that horror element, and it kind of like it's horror, so it's still heavy stuff, but at the same time, it kind of lightened up the rest of it a little bit, if that makes sense. And I really like you're wondering how this pastor and this town plays into it. And I like, how that got brought back around and such. Um, so yeah, I really enjoyed the story itself and like listening to the narrators and such, but I just think the writing style and then not having the glossary and such, it just wasn't a very easy read. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars. But out of the 3 books I read by this author, this is definitely my favorite one. So I did finish that one. Then we have The Truth According to Ember by Danica Nava. And I'm about at the halfway point. I'm slightly under. Um, and nothing still hasn't happened, which I don't mind a slow burn. But the thing with this one is, like, they keep having these little interactions and these flirty moments, and nothing has happened. But then, like, it's getting really repetitive as far as like her viewpoint. They have these moments, and oh no, we can't go there. Like, it's not worth the risk to either one of our jobs, and like it's just kind of getting a little bit repetitive, and so I'm not enjoying that aspect so much. There's still some pop culture references, but overall, the characters are fine. Like, there's not like a lot of personality in depth to them. Ember's personality is that she lies. Like, she gets embarrassed and she lies about stuff. But overall, like, it's hitting the mark as far as just a rom com. Right now, it's about probably a 3 star. But I think this is her debut uh, author. Yeah, rom com debut by Danica Nava. So this is her debut, so it's understandable that's not like perfectly polished or anything. But yeah, not a lot of personality to the Kenders. His whole personality is that he's hot and helpful. Like, hers is that she gets embarrassed and she lies, you know. But overall, like, it's hitting the mark. I'm enjoying reading it each night, a few chapters. It's really easy to read. It's nice kind of brain break for myself. So I'm just gonna hopefully continue and finish it up by Sunday. Like, that's the goal, because this video is gonna go out on Monday. So I'm gonna continue to work on that. Today I'm gonna go ahead and start Mirrored Heavens. Again, I have the audiobook for this one. This is by Rebecca Roanhorse. And this is a 20-hour audiobook, so it's definitely going to take me today, tomorrow, and maybe even Sunday to finish it up. But my plan is I'm going to be on the computer. I got to do bills, and then I'm going to go ahead and sort the receipts I took pictures of yesterday and just get that done, since I do have the audiobook and I need to listen to it now and not next week. So I'm going to do that today. So I'm basically going to be on the computer, and then once I'm done on the computer, my husband, he's been raiding on World of Warcraft, and so he'll get home, and that's Friday and Saturday nights. So he'll get home, jump straight into that. So if I'm done on the computer, I'll cross stitch while I listen to this. But my goal is just to listen to this. We only have 72 pages left of the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook. And so we're probably going to read that tomorrow during the day before he gets on the raid, because we both just want to finish it up. And then I'm probably not going to touch any more of Before the Devil Breaks You until next week, after I'm done with these native books. Like I said, I still have the 3, the Coyote, and I'll definitely get to this weekend. And I'm hoping, like I said, I'll probably only get to one of the other ones. It'll probably be the Tommy Orange, the Wandering Stars. But at the same time, like, after reading the Buffalo Hunter, I don't know if I want that much of another heavy book. But today it's all about this one, and then at bedtime I'll see how much more progress I can make in this. So that's where we're at. I will be back once I have finished one of these, and I'll give you my thoughts then. All right, so it is Saturday morning, the 15th, and I actually do have some updates. So I know it's not officially a part of this video, but my husband and I did finish the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook, which is book 3 in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series by Matt Dinniman. We love this. We finished it last night. We stayed up late to do so. So there was that we finished. I made it past the halfway mark in Mirrored Heavens. I'm listening to this, but I'm keeping track on this. I read 10 hours yesterday, and I have like 9 hours and 40 minutes today to read or listen to. I love this so far. Like, I definitely would have done better reading this physically, but it's obviously more convenient to listen to it. I love all the narrators, all the characters. There's a lot of moving parts in this one, but the author makes it so easy to follow along. If I get confused about someone, there's of course the character list in the front, which is very helpful. There's the map in the front, which isn't very complicated, but is also helpful. And yeah, I'm just having a great time with this. We're going to go have breakfast with my mother-in-law this morning, and then I'm planning on coming back. And actually, I want to read this one, Coyote N, by Folktales Retold by Joe Hayes. It's only 75 pages. There's a lot of pictures. So I plan on, when I get back, reading this one, just because I really want to get to that, and then jumping into this for the rest of the day and the evening. And I'm definitely planning on finishing this. Like, yes, it's a lot of hours, but I did it yesterday. So that's the plan. I'm going to finish this today and read Coyote N today as well. And then I read about 50 pages of The Truth According to Ember last night. We're finally getting some progress. 200 pages in, and we're finally getting that progress. So I'm like, yes, like, I'm ready. And so they're at like this, they had like a corporate get together out in California. So they live in Oklahoma, flew out to California, and there's the one bed trope for reasons. And so yeah, we're finally getting to the meat of the story. I think pacing wise it could have been a little bit better, and like I said, I am enjoying it overall. Like, it's hitting the mark of what I was looking for. So it's still about a 3-star. We'll see how we go from here though. And so we'll see if I don't foresee myself finishing this tonight because I'm going to be really tired. Um, but we'll just have to see. I have 120 pages left, so I'll definitely be able to at least read half of that tonight and then probably finish this one up tomorrow, which means I'm not entirely sure if I'll get to the other two or not because, like I said, I want to be wrapping up tomorrow, but I might start one and then just continue it on in the next week. We'll just have to see how I go. But we're going to go get some breakfast, and then I'm going to come back and dive into these books and work on cross stitching for the whole day. I'll try to show you guys my cross stitch tomorrow, and that way you can see what I've done by listening to some books. So I will be back for you guys in just a moment to give you probably the final update, but I might see what I can get read tomorrow and then do an update Monday morning before I get this video uploaded. So we'll just see. All right, so it is now the morning of Monday the 17th, and this video is coming out today, so I need to wrap it up. So Saturday we ended up, my husband was gonna go down and have breakfast with his mom and take her trash and such, and I decided to go along. So Saturday morning, didn't get a lot done while we were hanging out over there. I did read a little bit of The Truth According to Ember, read about 30 pages. And then once we got home, I jumped into Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse, and I listened to this book. It was like 9 hours and 40 minutes. I listened to it all day, on all evening. And finished it, and I absolutely loved this. Ended up giving it 5 stars. I will say the ending, we're following a lot of characters, and the ending is definitely kind of an emotional roller coaster. You kind of get part happy ending, part very sad ending. One you think is very sad, and then something happens, and it's not as sad, and then one you don't really get a resolution. And so there's like all these different like type of endings in this one book, and I actually really enjoyed that. And I really like the dynamic of the characters in here, and I would kind of separate them into 3 different like factions, I guess. And one, like they're the bad guys, like they're the bad guys, and you're not rooting for them. The other two, you're rooting for both of them, even though they're both against the other bad guy, but they're also against each other. Um, but you're still rooting for both of them, and they're both a little bit morally gray, one more so than others, but you're rooting for them. And so I really liked that dynamic. I thought it was fun. The author did a fantastic job. There's so many characters. You're jumping from POVs and locations and timelines. You're going back in time and getting a little bit more information back in time, and does a really great job making it where you can follow along. Like, is it complicated? Yes, but she gives you the tools you need to follow along. Like, there's a character list, there's a map, and each chapter tells you both where you're at and what timeline you're in. So that is extremely helpful. I would have liked to read this physically along with the second book, but I really enjoyed the narrators as well. I thought they did a fantastic job. They have a different narrator for each POV, basically. I will say though, like, for example, Shiala, her narrator, you'd be listening to her, and then you would jump to another POV that she was a part of, but you weren't specifically following her. And they didn't do like where the narrator for Shiala would jump in. And some, like, especially like the men's POVs, like when it was a male POV and they were doing like the voice for Shiala, because I had been listening to that other narrator, it would like throw me off, and like it didn't quite match up. That was my only critique, but otherwise the narrators were fantastic. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. So I definitely plan on rereading the series and reading all 3 books physically because I think I would do better that way. Um, I am a little bit also the one character who doesn't wrap up. I'm like, I want to know, like, what happens with that character. I want to know. But great ending to the series. I absolutely love the whole series. And so yeah, I really enjoyed that one. I did not quite finish my cross stitch, but made great progress. So all I have left is the mom needs her little shoes, and there's a heart right here, and then all the back stitching and such I still need to do. But done with that. And then Sunday, actually not quite Sunday yet. I did, after I finished Mirrored Heavens at bedtime, I ended up reading Coyote N, which is Native American Folktales retold by Joe Hayes with illustrations by Lucy Jelinek. Goodness gracious me, I can't talk. I love the art in here. Like, the art was really great. I absolutely loved it. The stories, so he has in his introduction that because like each tribe is going to have kind of different versions of the stories and whatnot, that he kind of just took inspiration, and this is his version of like common folk tales in um specifically like the Southwest region. But so I don't know how much is like the original folktale and how much is him, but some of them were quite outlandish. Like, I'm all for Coyote talking and getting up to shenanigans and such, but like at one point, like he's trying to trick Skunk, and he's like, "Wouldn't this be great? Like some kind of other animal? Like, wouldn't it be great as like a prairie dog or something. Roasted, like, wouldn't you like a nice succulent roasted prairie dog or whatever kind of animal it is?" And I don't know, somehow, like, him cooking his food, like, just was just too far for me. Like, I can go down with him talking and all the shenanigans he gets up to, but him cooking the food was just a step too far. I don't know. But I don't know how much, like, was that in the original folk tales, or was that him adding his interpretation? I don't know. And there also wasn't a lot of depth. Like, they are super short stories, which is fine, but I kind of wanted more from it, a little bit more depth. But I enjoyed the stories for the most part. Like, my favorite was Locust and the Turtle. Those were my favorites because Coyote and whatever animal. And so kind of the dynamic between them and such. But those two are my favorites. And so yeah, I ended up giving this 3 stars. Um, it was my kind of thing. I like folk tales from different areas, Native American folk tales and such. So it was definitely my kind of thing. I just kind of wanted more from it, and like some of them were just like I just couldn't get behind that for whatever reason. So 3 stars on that. And then I was exhausted, so I did not read any more of The Truth According to Ember. Sunday, I woke up and I decided I wanted to play World of Warcraft with my husband, so we played that. And then we kind of decided to have an impromptu date night. I was wanting like Asian food, so we went down to this Asian buffet that's in the bigger city. Went down there, and then because of me almost being done with the cross stitch, I needed a frame for it, and that way I can get it wrapped up for my mother-in-law. And so we went to Savers and ended up getting a bunch of books. I told him, like, I already kind of have my Christmas gifts because I got the treadmill, for my birthday, and it was also a Christmas gift. But he wants me to have stuff to open, so I told him, just go to Savers and you can get me some books. And so while we were there, like, he picked out some, and like I my mom and I used to do this at Christmas where we would just tell each other what we want, and then like, okay, here you go. And we wouldn't wrap, like, it was never a surprise. And that's my kind of shopping. Like, I like knowing what's coming. So, and I told him, like, he's not big on wrapping and such. So I was like, I'll wrap them for you and everything. Like, you just pick out the books and whatnot. And so my only thing was I didn't read what the books were about. So I know the books, I'm gonna wrap them, but I did not read what they were about. And so yeah, there's only 2 that I ordered that obviously I know what it's about, but they are for Christmas. And so yeah, so we got some books, and he's, he always like, get this, and so I ended up with quite a stack of books. But it was fun, and we got a frame for the cross stitch, and then we got some dessert, and headed home. And so when we got home, we ended up starting I can grab it, the dust jacket anyway, the fourth Dungeon Crawler Carl book, which is The Gate of the Feral Gods by Matt Dinniman, of course. We finished the Dungeon Anarchist cookbook, and we love Carl so much. And so it was like, I asked him last night, like, do you want to start the next Carl book? He's like, yes, let's read it. And already starting off fantastic. So we read 2 chapters of that, and then I was like, I'm finishing The Truth According to Ember, and so I finished this up last night as well. This one I'm giving 3 stars. You know, like, it's not like, just because it's a debut doesn't mean it's going to be not great. But in this case, you could definitely tell it was a debut. I did enjoy it overall. Like, there's the author has one other book out right now, uh, and I definitely want to get that one. It's like Love is a War Song, I think is what it's called, because I did enjoy this enough that, and I can see, like, it's the first book, like, things should get better as they go along, But with this one, you have Ember, and she is having trouble finding like a good job. She's working on a bowling alley, not making much money, and she just keeps getting rejected and rejected. So she decides to lie a little bit on her resume. So she says instead of checking the Native American box, she checks the white box, the Caucasian box, because her dad is white. And so she's like, let's see if that helps. And the author had a similar experience regarding that. Like, she wouldn't get hired, and then she wouldn't even get interviews or anything. And then when she checked the Caucasian box, she started getting interviews. So, you know, definitely like from the author's like real life experience. And then she also says she has her degree when she hasn't finished schooling. She had to stop schooling because of a situation with her brother. And so she lies on her resume to get the job, basically. And then this job has a no dating policy, like no fraternization with any coworkers or whatnot. Well, you have Danica, who's the IT guy. And this really suffered from the pacing of the book. Like, the pacing was all off because the first 200 pages, nothing really happens. Like, they're flirting and such, and you have like little small moments of flirtation, but it's just her like starting this job and such, and then like little moments of flirtation, but nothing's happening. And then you get all the action in the last 140 pages. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I still have a little bit of a cough that sneaks up on me. And so yeah, I think if it had been like the other way around, where like the first 140 were set up and then the last 200 were the action, it would have worked better pacing wise. But at the same time, I think pacing wise for the conflict within the job, because she does end up getting blackmailed by a coworker, which is on the back, um, who caught her and Danica in a situation. So she's being blackmailed by the coworker, and I think that felt a little rushed. But at the same time, as far as like the conflict between the romantic conflict between her and Danica, I think that actually was paced well, and it made sense because, and the way Danica, like, it made sense. Like, it felt like, yeah, this was a real situation in real life. Like, a man with a good head on his shoulders would react that way, like be like, what are you doing? Like, no, I'm not doing this. So that conflict, the pacing felt good, but the pacing with the blackmail at work felt rushed, if that makes sense. And also, like, the characters don't have a lot of depth and personality. Like, they're enjoyable for sure, but there's not a lot of depth there. And the conflict, like, there ends up being like two kind of conflicts, um, that they kind of have to. I mean, it's the same conflict, but they kind of have to work through them. And there's not like a really depth of conversation there or anything like that. And so it just felt like, and you're only getting Ember's point of view, So it almost felt like Daniel was like angry and upset, and then boom, okay, I forgive you, because there was none of that like dialogue, and you didn't get Daniel's point of view or anything like that. And so little things like that, like the pacing, it needed a little bit more depth, and like that conflict resolution needed to be built out a little bit more. But overall, I really enjoyed it. Um, Ember as a character, I did not like because she's a liar, right? And I will say, I think the author took that a little too far as well. Like some of the lies, like you could see. Like I don't mind reading an unlikable character if I can understand why they're doing what they're doing or their motivation or whatnot. And in Ember's case, she would panic and she would lie. But there were certain situations like that the lie was just a little bit too much, or like she would double down, and that didn't make sense. And then in the end, she's like, I'm not normally a liar. I'm the responsible one, and yada yada yada. But it's like, girl, I just read a whole book of you just lying, 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 and not all situations were where you were panicking. Like one that like really took it too far. There's a cat coming in, but one that really took it too far was she lies. He has a cat, and she lies and says she loves cats, and she's actually allergic to cats. And so she ends up going to his house and spending the night, and she wakes up and her face is all puffy, and he's like, why didn't you tell me you're allergic to I'm not allergic to cats. And it's like, okay, come on, the proof is on your face, like come on. And so like little things like that, like you can understand, the lies to a certain extent, even if you didn't agree with it. But like things like that just took it too far. And then like, yeah, you're not a liar. Like, come on, like no. So, but I am very interested in picking up this author's other book, and kind of keeping an eye. I love that you have the native representation, and she really talks a lot about that. The author does in the author's note and such, about how you don't see that representation, especially in like rom-com books and such. So I'm definitely gonna keep my eye out and try to get the other book, that she has out, and then see what other things she writes. So that is that. I did not end up getting to Wandering Stars or The Painted Drum. Wandering Stars, I actually decided, you know what, after the heaviness of the Buffalo Hunter and then the emotional roller coaster that was the Between Earth and Sky series, I just did not want another heavy book at this point. So I'm very interested in still reading this, but right now, I read some heavy stuff, especially with the Buffalo Hunter, that this one's going to go back on the shelf for now. And then I thought about picking up the painting drum and at least starting it yesterday, but I just decided, to have fun with and spend time with my husband. And I have so many other books that are sitting there waiting. This one was always a hopeful anyway, so it's also going to go back on the shelf. So those two are going back on the shelves. I did not get to them, but overall it was pretty successful. Let's see, we had Fever Star, which was a 5-star read, of course. Then we had The Buffalo Hunter, which I believe I gave 4 stars. Mirrored Heavens was a 5-star read. And then we wrapped it up with 2 3-star books. So, but still enjoyed both of these in different ways. The writing I needed a little bit more from. And so, yeah, I think that was a great week of reading Native American authors. Um, and I do have another book by Joe Hayes that I'm really interested in getting to. And then, like I said, of course, Danica, Nava, I really want to get to the other book they have out at this point. And Stephen Graham Jones, I still don't quite know if he's an author for me. I read 3 books now, and I really love the Buffalo Hunter, but I don't think his writing style is quite for me, even if I like the stories themselves. And then Rebecca Roanhorse, like I love that trilogy, so I can definitely see myself picking up more from that author. I would love to know if you've read any of these books, or maybe if you have any other Native American author recommendations for me. Let me know that down in the comments below. If you just want to let me know you're here and you're watching, and you're supporting the channel by commenting. You can always leave a rabbit, or if they have a buffalo emoji, or maybe a crow or blackbird, because that's a big part of the Between Earth and Sky trilogy. Leave any of those animals or any animal you would like, really. I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.